Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Happy holidays. And delighted to have you here this afternoon for our final webinar of the year. And this is our 42nd one that Uri and I have been presenting since we all went home during COVID. And hard to believe we've been chugging along for those many years. Hi, Uri.
Hey, John. Who you talking to?
I'm just talking to myself here, hoping you would
Oh,
show up.
yeah, that's funny.
Want to let the audience know we're here, they're at the right place, and we've got about 125 managing partners, law firm leaders registered for today's program. So I think a great turnout. This is the interesting time of year because I think a lot of people are already on Christmas break.
Absolutely.
So how you been, Uri?
I am well. We've been busy. I did those programs in New York a couple weeks ago,
Yep.
and we have another program in New York in second week of January. So, we're hustling. Putting on events ain't easy.
But it's fun.
It is.
I enjoy it anyway. I have a lot
Yep.
of fun doing these webinars and bringing in guest speakers, and they're just amazed that we can attract such a high quality group of people on such short notice. Because I think if the webinars aren't good, people aren't showing up,
Yep.
and I think we've got
John,
a
have
good.
you opened up? Have you opened up the? Are we broadcasting now?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Hope I
You
didn't
know,
say anything
Uri, you've done
inappropriate
enough
there,
of these.
John.
5 minutes before showtime, we
I
go
know.
on and banter a little bit, warm the crowd up, as it were. I learned this
Boy,
from
I
watching the
started
Colbert
drinking
Show.
early, John. I started
By the
drinking
way,
early.
since we last saw each other, I saw the Colbert Show live in New York,
Yes,
and
how
I've
was
always
that?
wanted to do that. And they have a
Yes,
guy come out, warm up the crowd before they
yes,
get
yes.
started. So, this
Right.
is our warm up, learning from the professionals.
Yes, right, John.
So we'll start
Right.
few minutes promptly at the top of the hour, hard
Yeah.
stop at 3 o'clock Eastern.
Yep.
And we'll be very observant of that. We got a lot of stuff we want to cover, including some live polling questions. When you registered, we asked a few survey questions of you. We'll share those results. And time and time again, we hear from our participants. Love the banter, the pace, and the timely survey results we generate coming out of this. So we are glad you're here, and we'll start in T minus about 60 seconds.
John, how are you today? How's Atlanta doing today?
Atlanta's been cold. We
Yeah.
got the back end of that nasty storm front that went up the
Yep.
East Coast. And,
Right.
when those fronts move through, we get cold for a couple of days and then it warms back up into the 50s.
Okay.
But we've been down in the 20s pretty good this week, and it gives you an excuse to throw a few logs on the fire and
Oh, wow.
a
Yeah,
little
20s
more
are cold.
holiday like when it's cold out. I like
That's
that.
that's
I grew up
true.
in Florida where we didn't have any change of seasons. It was
Right.
time
Right.
365 days a year. So we are at the top of the hour. Let me go ahead and get started, everybody. Welcome to the MPF webinar of December 2023, Big Bold Predictions. Uri and
Yes.
I are going to pontificate what we think might be going down in 2024, particularly as it affects smaller and mid-sized law firms. And we're not shy with our predictions. And Uri, sometimes we hit them,
Sometimes.
Sometimes we don't. So Uri, good to see you. Uri, those of you
Good to
who
see you.
don't know Uri should know Uri. He sits in Israel. He's doing these programs from Israel. Hard for me to believe. I don't know how you pull it off, but
Well, I
good
also
to be
spent
doing
quite a lot
another
of
thing
time
with you.
also spent a lot of time in New York, John. It keeps me going.
Well, that's what I don't know how you pull it off, the back and forth. Though you guys know us, we run the managing partner programs and do a little consulting on the side as well. If you have a firm retreat coming up, think about us. Or if you're looking to do a little firm-wide strategic planning, that's the kind of stuff we do. Drilling down on today's couple of announcements, then we'll set up today's program. Doing these webinar series third Wednesday, and we're hitting it pretty consistently. 2 o'clock Eastern, we go live. We do record the sessions, and do write-ups and such and share those with everybody who registers. So if there's some good stuff here you want to share among your firm, you can do so through recording, through the benchmarking data we'll be sharing with you all. Our big signature event coming up in May. We'll open registration in a few, right after the first of the year, actually. May 1 and 2 in Atlanta, our leadership conference. It will sell out. We'll get about 120 managing partners, mostly from the US and Canada. More and more folks coming from Canada. So keep that in mind. And if you want to come, I would encourage you to register early because we do sell it out. We're going to do a fall symposium. That'll be in Chicago. We did a program on empowering women in law firm leadership this past year. We're going to double down on that and present another program specific to women in leadership, by women, for women, with an all-woman faculty. We do our newsletter going out on Friday mornings, and as well, we got a lot of resources on our website. And if you come to one of our live programs, we give you keys to a listserv. Right now, the talk is on what we pay our IT director. And there's lots of talk around what we present to our associates in terms of Law Firm Economics 101. And are we teaching these kids how the firm makes money and their role to make that happen? We also do some Zoom calls that people really seem to enjoy.
Yeah, my favorite event of the year, John, is the Atlanta event in the beginning of May. I think I've been there 6 or 7 years now, and they're just fantastic. I'm not as old as I look, John. Come on. It's really a great program.
Uri facilitates, we spend much of the day breaking folks down by firm size, where they really open up and share. And Uri is one of the facilitators and does a great job. We got a blend of panels, all sorts of fun stuff going on in Atlanta. So take a look at it, and we guarantee you will not be disappointed if you attend. Drilling down on today's topic, enough of the shameless plugs. Big bold predictions. We got 125 is our actual head count. I didn't have a chance to update that. We have 125. We'll be doing some surveying as we go. As mentioned, we'll record this and it'll be available on demand with some follow-up material. Importantly, we want your feedback to the session. And as we lead out of the program, you'll be directed to just a 4-question survey. And we really hone in on that, particularly topics you would like to see us present future webinars. Let us know. We're not mind readers, and we really follow the lead of what you all tell us in terms of topics and speakers and all those good things. So let us know what you think. Our next webinar, in response to what you all are telling us, is going to drill down on profitability. And we're going to really hone in on KPIs, profit drivers within law firms, and hopefully give some good guidance to improve profitability at your firm in 2024 and beyond. That'll be on January 17. Details to be announced. So I want to thank our friends at Nine Sale. They've been doing recaps of our webinar, write-ups and such, and we distribute that and put it out on social media, and we really want to thank them for their support, their participation of our webinar series. So Uri, before we get started, we thought we'd take a look back at the programs we've done this year, 2023. And separately, we identified what we thought were the best in show. And so going through it chronologically, these I think were really, really good. So Uri, why don't you walk us through it? Because it was amazing. We were right in sync on what we thought were the best in show for this year.
So just before we jump into the first one, all these are archived on the website. If anything we're talking about piques your interest, go to the website. Watch them. They're quick. They're fast-paced. The first one we noticed, we looked through, and we're going to highlight 4 of them throughout the year. The first one is about law firm mergers and acquisitions. We had Corey Castillo, Roger Hayes, and Alex Muñez on with us, and we really had some really good information, very practical checklists, action items with so many of you in the merger area. Check that out. If that's something you're thinking about or participating in, check that one out in March. Really good
Yeah,
one.
we talked a lot about the importance of due diligence and
And how to do
cultural
it.
compatibility. If you're going to
Yes.
marry up with another law firm, or just a lateral, making sure there's that cultural compatibility. We're going to get along, and it might look good on paper, but if we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, it's probably not going to be a good match in the long run.
Yeah, and then in July, we had a really good one on the rise of the law firm C-suite, and we'll talk to that a little later in today's program. We have more comments on that, but this webinar is really good. We had 3 very sophisticated C-suite advisors, and we asked some good questions, if I do say so myself, that brought out how they help firms become revenue, and they are therefore revenue enablers, not cost centers. And that's something for those of you thinking about, sort of filling up your professional ranks. This is one you're going to watch.
Yeah, we've seen a number of firms in our MPF
Yeah.
community bring on COOs. I mean, well-paid, experienced folks, seat at the table, well compensated, genuine parts of the leadership team. Firms hiring CMOs, chief marketing officers, and these investments paying off big time. And they are investments. And in many firms, we look at these people as overhead. And the less overhead we have, the more money I can stuff into my pocket. But the C-suite, and as we run our firms more and more as businesses, and hiring good, strong professionals, IT, HR, marketing, and so managing partners, firm leaders, you can stay focused on big picture stuff and turn over a lot of the business side of running your firm to trusted, competent, often non-lawyer professionals. So that was a good program too. I believe we presented it with Calibrate Legal, uh, and they'll be in Atlanta. Jen Johnson and her team out of Austin, Texas.
In August, we did Chat GBT and
Had to,
AI.
right?
Absolutely. And
Had
it
to
was a
do that
really,
one at some point, right?
yes, we did. And it was good, specifically how practical it was. We had Tony and Rosanna Rosanna is a managing partner. Tony is a technology consultant. Really good, really spot on, very practical. And if anybody's still confused, how that could work in your firm, what exactly it is, check this one out. It's very easy to follow and very well presented.
Yeah, we got great feedback on this. Of course, it's such a timely topic and really
Yep.
absorbed a lot of attention this year as to what's the impact of AI, Chat GPT on smaller and mid-sized law firms. This has been a hot topic at our Zoom calls. We'll be doing more on this, obviously. We'll likely do some programming in Atlanta around this. And Rosanna Berardi, she is something else, managing partner of about a 15 lawyer shop in Buffalo, New York. And she was in Atlanta, and she comes rushing up to me at one of the breaks and says, "Hey, John, we are really leaning into Chat GPT at my law firm, and I'm happy to tell the story." And wow, Rosanna, good on you. And she's telling her story. She is really out there on the leading edge, uh, darn close to the bleeding edge of integrating technology, artificial intelligence into her practice. And her colleague, Tony DeSimone, I'm telling you, Uri, so many people said this was presented in such a clear
Mhm.
way. I could wrap my head around it and start
Yes.
to understand what this thing is all about and where it might be going, and what I, as a managing partner, can be doing to prepare my firm and its people for these advances in technology. We talked about policy. We talked about training. We'll be doing more on this topic. I think if you had to pick one to go back on for the year, best of show, this just might be number one on my list.
Oh, one more, John. One more. Pricing strategies with Bo Yancey. This is interesting, and we're going to revisit this in January in terms of pricing strategies and profitability, because those two are so intertwined. Really good discussion, really high level, very timely for planning your rates now at your firm and your structure as you roll into 2024.
We're going to talk a little bit about profitability, share some data we collected from you all. And, everybody's, tuning into profit. We're in business to make money. And how can we be more efficient, more productive, and more profitable at the end of the day? And Bo had worked at Redwood Analytics, LexisNexis, starting his consultancy. And I thought he did a great job trying to lay out some good practical guidance to smaller and mid-sized law firms. As Uri mentioned, all of these webinars are archived on our website. If you go there and look under webinars, we've got the on-demand recordings. We've got the recaps, the survey results. There's really a rich set of resources there and a lot of timely benchmarking data if you're trying to persuade some of your partners to move on some things. So with that recap, let's look forward and start with our first audience polling question. And let me get this going. I like to tell folks I'm in Georgia and we know how to count votes. So we use Dominion software, of course. And if you would, give us an indication of your firm size, please. And as is typical of our programs, Uri, we're right there set at mid-law. We've got 75% of our participants weighing in.
Can you
And
share that
so
on screen?
Here's our demographics. That's right at our sweet spot at 25 to say 150 lawyers or so. So as people provide their data, that's the firm sizes we're drawing from as we go through survey questions and polling results and that sort of thing. When you're registered, we always ask a couple of questions, 4 to be exact. And we gave you a drop-down menu and asked you to pick one from the list below. What's your firm's top priority? Just pick one in 2024. And here's what you told us. Uri, any surprise to that?
No, this, when we talked last year, John, remember culture was number one? Look how far that has fallen.
What happened to culture?
But the reason I'm not surprised is I saw so many firms, what we are seeing, particularly in New York, is that profitability squeeze. So when people are looking towards the future, I think profitability improvement is the top of everyone's list. And I think this shows it out. It's just, when you're not making as much money as you did the year before, or you haven't gone up, that's where you go right to. And so that issue has dominated. And I see that for now.
We've seen a shift here as we were emerging from COVID. Firms had some of their best years in 2022. Yes. And 2023 proved to be a very good year for most smaller, mid-sized law firms. And we've asked some data. How have you performed in 2023? Pretty darn well. Firms went about rate increases, got their rate increases. There may be a little more anxiety here as we emerge from COVID. We've kind of gotten our way through the remote work situation. Culture was the obsession coming out of COVID. It really was. And I think if we asked this question 18 months ago, culture would be the hands down winner. Mm-hmm. And here comes profitability. So, okay, again, we just gave you a drop-down menu and said pick one. And of course, all these things are intertwined. Because if you're investing in holding talent, you're putting in good marketing, attracting and retaining the kind of clients you want, all of this stuff interconnects. So profitability seems to be a priority. So with that, it begged a question, which was, we're going to give you a list and ask you to pick the primary strategy. You can only pick one on this list that your firm uses to maintain and improve its profitability. You can only pick one. So is it bumping rates? Is it working more hours? Is it doing a better job tracking time, billing practices, collections practices? We're going to do a better job at intake, sniffing out the slow pay, no pay clients, getting nice retainers, getting, engagement letters signed, or are we going to look at our expense side and perhaps our real estate, these sorts of areas? Uri, as the polling results come in here, I'm going to ask you to predict what you think is the number one strategy firms on today's call are using to maintain and improve their profitability.
I think higher rates is the tool, the lever that most are pulling. I think not a bad idea, but I think billing and collections is where you really can make the biggest impact, plus the rates.
People don't want to work more hours?
No.
It's amazing to see that billable hour expectation. We covered that last month.
Yes.
What's the billable hour expectation you have of your associates, of your income partners? And that number just keeps sliding. And here's what our crowd said. You were spot on. It's rates. Now is the time. We're going to talk about this. Now is the time. Be aggressive. Inflation sort of set into folks' expectations. We're going to share with you some data. 4 to 5% seems to be the average, and about 1 in 8 firms are trying to achieve rate increases of 10% or more in 2024. So don't be shy, be bold. Now is the time. Billing and collections, obviously, tracking the time, getting the bills out, pretty obvious. We asked kind of your concerns about the recession we've been hearing about, and are you concerned about it as we look to the coming year? And it looks like most firms are, not as concerned as they were in the beginning of the year about an economic recession. Uri, you think folks are being a little too optimistic?
I think people are seeing that the status quo is actually okay. Some practice areas have obviously been impacted much more significantly, but most of the business, again, absent real estate and M&A, has been going just fine.
1 to 5 scale, the way we phrased this question, this probably wasn't the best phrased question we've ever presented, but what's your level of concern about a recession in 2024? 1 being we're not the least bit concerned, 3% being we're very concerned. We do a lot of real estate deals, and but hopefully interest rates are coming back and deals will go down. There's a little bit of uncertainty in there. We've got the politics. We've got a couple of wars going on. So there are some degrees of uncertainty, but most folks seem to be pretty optimistic about the economy, its impact on their firms. We asked the same question in January at one of our at this webinar, and a little more pessimism about the economy coming into the year than as we leave the year. So some interesting data. Folks think, are a little more confident that the economy is going to be okay. And then we asked about your concern, 1 to 5, on the impact of artificial intelligence. We just can't get enough of this topic. I'm almost tired of it, Uri. But the impact of AI at your firm, your level of concern. And you can see there that 46, 56, 60% are somewhat to very concerned about how AI might affect our operation. What do you think, AI?
Well, I think it's something that we should focus a little bit more on. Just one of the things that I'll point out, and those of you can catch up on that webinar we did on AI in particular, that only, if you go back to that slide, John, only 7% of you reported on that webinar were doing any training on AI. So I think that's an opportunity, John. 93% not doing any training on AI. I mean,
I know, I was stunned.
That's a mistake. That's a mistake. And I think you see it coming out of this too, is basic training.
It's here, it's not going away.
Right, that's right.
So we can lean into it or just bury our heads in the sand and hope it goes away.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. No, it ain't going away. And so learning about it, leaning into it, we're here to help. and we try to be very specific to smaller and mid-sized law firms and provide some pretty concrete guidance. So we're going to be doing more programming with Rosanna. I think we'll bring her back. And this Tony DeSimone that did the program with us, I thought was just terrific. And I know that a number of firms have hired him to present a webinar for their groups to kind of demystify what this is. And it's the fear of the unknown. And that one incident involving the case in New York that just really rattled a lot of people. But it's here. Settle down and learn how to use it. We didn't have iPhones not that long ago, but now everybody has an iPhone. So technology ain't going away. We asked when y'all registered for your big, bold predictions. And here's a sampling of what you all had to say. And some of this aligns pretty well with what I think Uri and I want to share in terms of our predictions. AI, some think it's the latest shiny object and it's going to fade into the distance. We disagree. Others of you think, no, we're going to get this sooner than we think and learn how to use it, train up our people. We're going to talk about large firms, hybrid workplaces, and of course, world peace.
Let's hope.
So that's what you all told us were among the big, bold predictions you had. Here's what Uri and I got, and we're going to present 12. Some are going to be pretty obvious. Some hopefully might prompt you to think a little bit and surprise you. So Uri, why don't you kick us off with your first big, bold prediction?
Big law will make big adjustments. It's in the press, and I'll just focus my comments on why you care, those of you who are with us today, which is big law is shedding talent in some practice areas, and big law is shedding business professionals, business support leaders, marketing people, business development people. They have decided that that's the way they are going to deal with their profitability issues. Is that wise? Probably not. We don't think so, but they're doing it. And that means an opportunity for small and mid-sized firms, both to pick up the right talent, particularly in corporate, real estate, investing in these people coming on board, if it makes sense. One of the things that John and I have often spoken about when you're evaluating these people coming from big law is, are they just using you for a couple of months till they get hired back, or are they a good fit? But you want to be looking for those people who are available and who would be a good fit. Pay attention to that. It's happening. I sit in New York most of the time, and in New York, this is happening every day. Look out in your neck of the woods if this is happening, because these are opportunities for really good people.
So I think, you're there close to the New York market, which tends to, be home to a lot of big law. And as you say, we're starting to see them shed talent and shed not just lawyers, but support staff. And there's some opportunity to pick some talent up. And yeah, you don't want to be used when if the big bucks with big law comes back around, but it's that cultural compatibility. And Uri, I've worked with a lot of firms, mid-size, that have plucked young lawyers out of big law who've had enough of the 2,100, 2,200 billable hours and want to come back home and seek some work-life balance, start a family, and they come with that big law experience and work ethic, well-trained. And those people are out there if you go looking for them. And I've worked with a number of firms over the past couple of years who very successfully plucked out senior associates, young partners looking to build a book of business at a much more reasonable platform in terms of rates and cost structure to the client. They want me to bill my time for $600 an hour here at Big Law. I'm a third-year associate. And how can I build a practice around that? So big law, big changes, opportunities. I couldn't agree more for smaller and mid-sized law firms. Here's another prediction we had in terms of movement.
Consolidation of mid-sized and small firms are increasing. A couple of reasons for that. Number one, bigger seems to be better for systems. One of the trends of hiring professionals, it's easier for a 75 lawyer firm to hire a really, really good COO and CMO than it is for a 20 and a 30 attorney firm. Consolidation therefore makes sense. We're seeing also the aging of a lot of small and mid-sized firms from founders. Succession planning, we think it's going to increase, and 2024 is just picking up on that pace.
Well, I think we will see some consolidation here among, big law coming in, and that's an acquisition. Let's face it, it's not a merger or a combination. And I think being strategic, thoughtful, deliberate, and expanding around industry, around practice niches, geographically, but thoughtful, deliberate, strategic, combinations. Not just we have empty office space over here we need to fill. Or, hey, I got a partner retired to Naples, Florida, wants us to set up a little office there.
Right.
Those aren't the reasons to expand your geographic footprint. But if we've got clients with big money moving to Naples, that might be a better reason to establish a footprint in that market than to accommodate a retired senior partner. But consolidation, I see it happening, Uri. I predict it as well, that we'll see more combinations among smaller and mid-sized law firms, hopefully for the right reasons. This one's my slide, and we used it last month toward associates. Associates want it all was the caption. Well, the demand, and I think we'll find it, we can ask you guys a polling question, for laterals is junior partners, hopefully with books of business, often income partners at a firm that are looking to a better cultural fit. And the demand for junior partners is red hot, the lateral movement red hot, and I forecast it will continue to be red hot for young partners with books of business or potential books of business. Uri,
Absolutely.
Do you agree?
Absolutely, and I see it all over. And I think our next slide on the contrast says quite a lot.
Well, and this speaks to our junior associates, our first, second, third years. We're hearing many firms talk about the fact that we don't want to bring them on until about 3 or 4 years of experience. Train them up, and just as they turn profitable, here comes big law plucking out the best of our junior associates. A lot of discussion around the impact of artificial intelligence on our need for heavy document review, document production that can now be done by machines in a fraction of the time, probably more accurately. And what does that mean for our inexperienced first, second, third year associate? What does it mean for our summer associate program? Are we continuing to bring people on fresh out of law school at first, second, third year level? We're seeing young lawyers being shed at big law, and they might not have the leverage they had before COVID and even coming right out of COVID as firms become more efficient. Uri, what do you think about that prediction?
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. I'm hearing cutbacks on junior programs, cutbacks on summer programs. There was a time not that long ago, it was a year and a half ago, John, that was people couldn't get enough of juniors and summer programs. I'm hearing the opposite now, other direction. Let's see what our polling here of today says.
This prompts one of our obligatory polling questions, and this is a click all that apply question. And we're going to present various levels: senior partners, junior partners, senior associates, junior associates? And at what levels of experience is your firm proactively recruiting talent? Check all that apply. So if you guys are out on the prowl for senior partners, hey, you might be looking for all 5. You might be looking for just 0, but click all that apply in terms of where you all are looking to proactively bring on legal talent. I put C-suite in there, COOs, CMOs, and are you looking to recruit those sorts of professionals? Uri, offer up your prediction here.
I think we're going to see junior and senior partners, and maybe senior associates.
Senior associates seem to be 80% of you claim to be looking for senior associates. Are you using headhunters, or are you enlisting your own people to help recruit candidates? Are you hiring a director of recruiting? We're seeing more and more smaller mid-sized firms hire directors of professional development who work on the recruiting, retention type issues among senior associates, junior partners. I'm surprised to see junior associates so high here, Uri, on this survey, given
Although
some of
it's
the
last.
polling data
Although
we've
it
been
is
seeing the
last.
last few months.
It is last, though.
Senior partners last.
Yeah.
Senior.
Junior associates. Oh, you're right. Pardon me. This is surprising.
We ran this polling question at a previous webinar, and the programs Uri alluded to in New York, New Jersey. And, the action overwhelmingly in those markets was junior partners, trained up, know how to run a case, handle a matter start to finish, eager to build a practice. Junior associates, we just don't have the resource to invest in that long game. Here, I think it's good to see the investment in young people. And a lot of firms I work with, Uri, say the best partners we have today are people we brought in through our summer associate program. We got a chance to know them, see if they fit with our culture, what their attitude toward work was, and those sorts of things. And it enabled us to make better hires. And we got to know them early and mold them into our way of doing business. And they move on up the ladder pretty well. And as we recruit higher up in seniority, those people tend to be a little more mobile. So no right or wrong to it, but again, be deliberate, thoughtful, strategic about who you're hiring, why you're hiring, and that elusive junior partner with a book of business. Wow. I'm surprised we don't see. We've asked that question. Almost every firm says they're looking for junior partners with books of business. When we asked this in Atlanta back in May, I think 90% of the folks in the room said, yeah, we're looking for junior partners with books of business. So I don't know, we see this maybe rolling back a little bit, but interesting question. And thank you for sharing, everyone. Moving along, we're about 25 minutes remaining, Uri. I think we're on a good pace as we roll through our predictions.
John, your big bold prediction.
This is one I feel passionately about, and that's empowering women and diversity into leadership roles within our law firms, and being deliberate and intentional about providing opportunities, mentoring, sponsorship. At our last managing partner conference in Atlanta, 22% of our registrants were women. I thought it was great to see women emerging into leadership roles. And we're so committed to it. We're doing these fall symposiums dedicated to empowering women in law firm leadership. And I'm telling you, I was so inspired and motivated. And I think we're going to see women leap into leadership positions. We've been seeing that data for a long time. Majority of graduates coming out of law school have been women since the 70s. And as they move up the ranks into seniority, the percentage of women who emerge as equity partners, executive committee members, managing partners gets fewer and fewer and fewer. I think we're seeing a pretty seismic change here. And as we see more and more women emerge to leadership roles, my colleague Steve Mabey in Canada does a lot of work with mid-sized firms there, has noticed a remarkable uptick in the number of women in leadership roles among Canadian firms. I see the same thing here. And I think 2024, 2025, we're really going to see women really assert themselves into leadership roles.
John, I think it's a little of a different look in New York, where I sit. It's more, there are women more equity partners, but there's still very few women managing partners. I think that's, it's probably moving, but almost hard to really see at the leadership, at the managing partner level, at least at the New York firms.
Why?
I don't know.
We're seeing at the kind of national level, when we do our surveys and conferences and stuff, we're seeing more and more women. I mean, it's noticeable. And I love it when I get up there and welcome everybody and look out and see diversity in the room. And, 20 years ago, it wasn't there. And there's work to be done. But I think women are making tremendous strides into the profession. And I think that's a good thing. Clients want to see it. And it's the right thing to do. Uri, this one's yours.
Yeah. Firms in 2024 are going to focus on that profitability, more attention, basic hygiene. What's basic hygiene? We mean tracking their time, recording time, getting the bills out, and collecting what you are owed. Every data point that we've collected continues to be firms leaving money on the table, significant amount of money.
Yes.
And it's not even the hard stuff. Sometimes when we talk about this topic, our clients will freeze up and they'll be like, yeah, well, I can't push them to pay me any better. It's not fighting with your clients. It's recording your time and getting it onto the bill and then sending the bill timely, for example. That's not contentious with your client. That's just reporting properly what you've done on their work. And yet we have historically seen firms leaving lots of money on the table. And remember, for every dollar that you collect, it goes right to the bottom line. It doesn't cost you 1 penny to deposit a slightly larger check. And so if you want to focus on those profit margins, and we certainly all do, and we've been feeling the squeeze, this is the #1 way to do it. It's the easiest way to do it. No question, easiest way to do it. And we think you will continue to do it because it just makes so much sense.
I think it's so important capturing the time contemporaneously. Every study we read says if you don't have that practice and you're living on the billable hour, you are shortchanging yourself. And the longer you wait to try to capture your time, the more you're doing yourself and your firm a disservice. Contemporaneous time tracking, training around time tracking, time entries, getting the bills out promptly so the clients want to pay them. They don't want to pay a stale bill that's got time in there 6 months ago. They don't remember that. So being really diligent and not putting up with lawyers who can't get the time in, can't get the bills out. That's a problem. And that's basic hygiene if we're working the billable hour. And I'm shocked, Uri, at how many smaller, mid-sized firms are very lax around timekeeping and billing practices. And, Joe never gets his time in. And we're okay with that. It's not okay. And
you're not a lawyer.
Joe can get away with it, so can Sally, Eric, and Elizabeth. It's not fair to the people who are paying attention to their basic hygiene to let certain lawyers not. It's just not fair. And this, I think, is a very important role of a managing partner, is to hold people accountable to this, and do what you got to do. to get that time in, get those bills out. For your young lawyers, a lot of it's about training and tools that enable them to do these sorts of things. But you may have a couple of senior partners who kind of have checked out. And is that okay? And as managing partner, keeper of the culture, really important. What are you willing to tolerate in terms of hygiene? And people who don't exhibit good practices around the basics. So I think firms, you want to improve profitability, here's a darn good place to do it. And as Uri suggests, every bump on the realization rates goes straight to the bottom line. We're seeing more and more firms, Uri, offer training around law firm economics 101.
Yep.
Because associates don't know about the profit drivers. They went to law school. Right. And having them really understand and appreciate how important it is to the firm's success and how the firm makes money. So often, associates, they have no idea what their overhead is, overhead allocation. They have no idea. And so really getting disciplined about the basic hygiene, training up your people, and calling out the people who just can't seem to get it together. Here's one we have had some hot conversations around, Uri, and that's the rate increases and whether they'll hold. And last year, we saw many firms ambitious about their rate increases. You predicted clients ain't going to pay. Guess what? Clients have paid. According to our surveys, national as well as the New York, New Jersey crowd that we just worked with in November, fresh data, about 90 managing partners. Did you achieve rate increases in 2023? Yeah, quite successfully. And then we flipped and looked forward and said, and what are your plans for 2024? And be bold. Be bold. At our last webinar, we talked about who sets rates. Do you let the individual partners set their rates? Or is there a firm standard rate schedule, an intake process, if you want to come off that? Be bold. I predict if you go there, you'll get it more often than not. If not, you'll get some of it. But if you don't ask, you'll likely not have clients coming volunteering to pay you more money. So, being confident and assertive, and I think you might be surprised at your ability to achieve higher rates if you go chasing them.
Yeah, we saw that people are getting it, John, aren't they?
They are, but you said, no, clients are pushing back. I think, Uri, there's certain practice areas that are commoditized and clients are doing the rate setting. Insurance defense is the kind of the classic.
Oh yeah, they'll tell you the rates, sure.
So pushing the rates on those big insurance companies may be a little more challenging, but firms that go there get it more often than not. If they're providing great service, good value, good results, the clients may not be thrilled to pay more, but they will. So, I think you got the bet the company litigation, that all important transaction. And, if you're a good size entity, you're probably going to go to Kirkland and Ellis or Skadden and Arps or Wachtell. But there's that important work in the middle. Important litigation. It's not bet the company. It's not commodity. But I think is where smaller mid-sized firms can really compete and offer an exceptional value proposition. And clients more and more willing to give important matters to smaller and mid-sized kind of non-brand firms. I think the networks have an opportunity here, to put that imprimatur in the minds of in-house counsel and your board members kind of thing. But I think the rates are going to hold. I really do. And I was stunned, Uri, the number of firms that are telling us they're going to seek 10% or more.
Yeah.
In 2024. That kind of rhymes. 10% or more in 2024. That's a pretty good mantra. So go after it, everybody. Go after it. C-suite. We did a webinar on this, and Jen Johnson and our friends over at Calibrate are going lights out, helping smaller, mid-sized firms recruit COOs, chief operating officers. We have a member of our community, Uri. They hired a CEO, non-lawyer, who had worked with accounting firms, and brought her in, and they are giving her some powers and authorities. And I'm sure not all the lawyers like it, giving a non-lawyer that much authority and responsibility. But boy, you get the right people in there, they are game changers. And as we alluded, big law, as we see mergers, maybe shedding. We don't need a high-powered branch office administrator. So there's overlap, and there's talent out there with law firm experience. Now, they don't come cheap, but man, can they be difference makers if you're willing to make that investment in the business side of running your firm.
Yeah, we see this a lot. And John, good prediction. It's going to increase. It has over the last year, big momentum here. They pay for themselves. They're revenue enablers. Changes. It's a game changer.
It is. And I love, that's a Jen Johnsonism, revenue enablers.
He's talking
And,
well.
Let's get the non-lawyer, non-equity, non-billable, non. These folks are part of your team. And boy, can they make a difference and free up the time of lawyers to go do the business development, the mentoring and training of the young lawyers, practicing law. So we're not, hire good professionals, let them roll, give them a seat at the table. ALA, Association of Legal Administrators, has a nice little section on its website that talks about how to determine if your firm's right for an administrator, and how you might craft a job description. They have a job bank. You can go on there and see who in your state is looking and what they're paying. They have a compensation and benefits survey they just published. So they aren't overhead. They are money makers. It's just a matter of kind of how you look at it. But the C-suite will continue to gain stature and influence. And Uri, this was among your predictions, kind of I think,
remote.
not let's big bold, but
Well, let's talk about remote. I mean, I think on one regards, I think the remote working from home at 100% is not going to continue in 24. I mean, that's something we've seen wane the last year and a half. And what I'm seeing now, what I'm predicting is that hybrid, particularly in the big cities, hybrid is going to be the norm. Flexibility, continue to be flexible, or else you're going to be missing out on talent. And I'm seeing hybrid is ruling. What does hybrid mean? In the big city markets, that means 3 days a week. It overwhelmingly means Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Your people will mostly be there most of those 3 days. Mondays, some will be in, and you don't need to turn the heat on for Fridays because no one is coming in on Fridays anymore.
I think, we've settled into this a little bit. COVID, everyone was freaking out, and how the impact of remote work will impact productivity, collaboration, culture, all these good things, mentoring. The fears just didn't bear themselves out.
Right.
Some people can't work remotely. They just don't have the discipline. They need a little structure and oversight. Some people love it and are more productive. I think the key here is to be flexible.
Yes.
Flexible. Particularly if you want to attract women and young lawyers to your mix, because they're going to almost demand it and walk away if your firm is totally inflexible. I like the hybrid idea. A lot of firms go in there. A lot of firms working toward that hoteling concept. But the flexibility and being deliberate and intentional about what you're doing, and do we have firm policy? Where I see challenges is partner A lets his people work remotely, partner B down the hall wants his or her team in 5 days a week, And that can create all sorts of tensions among lawyers, among support staff, when we have different rules for different people. So be deliberate, be intentional. I think firms have settled into this pretty well. A lot of firms looking to unload real estate, as we know, and
Yes.
time to put your landlord on notice. But they will become the norm and the expectation. This is my one of my predictions, and this is caring about your people and their wellness, their physical well-being, their psychological well-being. I think a lot of people are just fried. We are just tired of COVID, tired of change, isolation. And I think, a lot of studies about how this has impacted lawyers, the isolation, the uncertainty, the change, and some are struggling. And the stigma associated with asking for help is high. And wellness programs and really genuinely caring about your people and their welfare, their financial well-being, their psychological well-being, their spiritual well-being. This is what's going to attract and retain lawyers and support staff to your law firm. The fact that you care about your people and you demonstrate that in deeds and actions and a wellness program. We had a client years ago out of Florida, and they had a 5-pillar wellness program. And, they used it as a recruiting tool and touted it on their website, and they delivered. Wellness, I think, is a really big deal. And tune into your people, make sure they're doing okay. Uri, comments about wellness? You're in New York. You guys don't care about wellness up there, do you?
Well, even in New York, they care a little bit about wellness, John.
Little bit.
Even in New York, a little bit. It's not top. I don't think it's top 10.
Un poquito. It's more about profitability and get your time in, huh? We're going to break you down one way or another. We are coming right toward the end. Our timing, we got the timing down on these webinars, Uri. We were concerned we might not have time to get through all our material, but boy, we're doing a nice job here. This one's mine, and this is in our efforts to improve profitability. Let's not be too short-sighted about expense slashing. And I see this happen often during economic recessions, economic uncertainty. Firms will go into expense slashing mode, cancel the retreat, cancel the, the this, that, the other, the donuts on Friday. That'll save us a couple of nickels. Don't be short-sighted in your efforts to improve short-term profitability. The long-term investment and sustainability of your law firm. Don't gut it. Keep that retreat in place during times of uncertainty and challenge. Now more than ever, you probably need to get together and rally the troops. Invest in your people. Invest in your firm's infrastructure, technology, and don't postpone that investment. It's too important to just push it off. Succession planning is another area where firms push it off. Sometimes it involves difficult conversations with senior partners when they're not, stepping up their performance or they're just, time to move on. And, putting off these difficult decisions. And often I see to preserve profitability, we're going to slash expenses everywhere we can. And I think it becomes detrimental to the long-term success of the place if you do too much of that.
Yeah, that hunker down, don't do anything new, don't grow, don't invest. It's just not a long-term play, John. You're 100% right.
Well, I think you got to look, are we in it for the long play? Because I get in there and do a lot of work with first-generation law firms.
Yeah.
And it's great as long as the founder or founders are large and in charge, but it's not sustainable. And if you want to build a legacy firm, multi-generational firm, I think investing in the infrastructure, the recruiting, the training, the marketing, all these good things that are longer play are really, really important to build that lasting legacy firm. Now, if you just want to cash out and be done, and a first generation firm, over and done with when the founder retires, that's fine. But I'd suggest be open to your people and let them know that's the plan. And we may not be building the pyramids here, but we, may be building, what do they call it? Junk fashion, where you wear the dress once and throw it out. But yeah, you're in it for the long haul. I would hope, and investing in your people and their long-term success and your firm's long-term success.
John, predictions
Yes.
for 2024 for mid-law.
Well, it's going to be a hell of a year, I think, for mid-law. I use the term kick butt. Uri doesn't like that term. He's going to say we'll do very well. But I will almost say kick the A word here. But I think mid-sized firms that are on top of their games, paying attention to things we've been talking about, are going to hit it out of the park in 2024. I really do. But do the right things for the right reasons. Invest in your people, invest in your clients, bump your rates. I think mid-law has so much opportunity in front of it. These are exciting times, and anytime there's change, there's opportunities for firms to capitalize or not. And we were talking about the changes at Big Law, changes in technology, and what that's going to mean to the profession. But I think it's going to be a great year next year for most smaller and mid-sized law firms.
John, let's hit our last polling question.
Well, Uri, what do you think?
Question.
You didn't give us do you agree with that? You think mid-law is a good spot for next year?
I do. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. I think the practice areas that have been challenged, I think you got to be real careful about, mostly transactional real estate. But I think focus. Hygiene, as you've pointed out, I think beat that one to death today. But I think that's where the real improvements are in the firms. And yeah, I think 2024 is going to be a great year.
I had a client, this reminds me of a firm in Iowa years ago. Oh, that's Dennis. He never gets his time in. Oh, that's Dennis. He never gets his bills out. And there sits Dennis, equity partner of the law firm, setting an example for the come on. Not okay, Dennis. Anyway, so I think it's a good year. We're going to ask you all our final polling question of the day. And compared to this year, what are you projecting in terms of your firm's financial performance in the coming year? And we didn't really put parameters, but are you going to do considerably better, somewhat better, about the same, or on the opposite side, we might slip a little bit in terms of our financial performance in 2024. Uri, the results are coming in. I'm looking at my Dominion software voting machines here and counting. What do you think?
I think people are going to say about the same.
We have about 72% of you who are voting here. And boy, there's optimism in the room. Optimism in the room.
Wow.
Considerably better, say 14%, 55%, somewhat better. Not one firm in the room is suggesting a slip in 2024.
Audience. Look at this, John.
Not one.
Look at this. Oh, my goodness. John.
Pretty confident group here, Uri.
John, we are at the end of our program, and I think we need to make a toast to this great news.
Hey, I do, but let me make a few announcements, and I will. And know what, Uri? I was looking for ginger ale or something. Guess what I found in my refrigerator from dinner on Saturday?
Wow.
The real stuff.
Nice effect.
Real glass.
Nice effect.
Everybody, cheers to the holidays, to a successful new year. And a few quick announcements before we toast. Look for our follow-up email. We send those religiously. and give us your opinion. We'll be back on January to talk about profitability, number one issue on your minds, and come see us in Atlanta. So thank you again for showing up. Uri, Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year, my friend.
And Happy
Cheers.
New Year to everybody with us today. Enjoy the holidays, and hope to see you sometime in the coming New Year. Cheers.
Cheers.
And I'm going to actually drink on my webinar. I've never done that before. Bye, everybody.
Bye.